Hello, beautiful creatives. Oh, there I am. It's Michelle with Inner Journey Studios, where I help women like you prioritize your creativity and some relaxation time. So, today I wanted to share with you one of the things that I know many of us struggle with, and that is using a stencil. So I hear very often from people that, oh, stencils don't work. I don't like them. I can't get mine to do what I wanted to. It bleeds all over the place, all of that stuff. So I wanted to share a little bit about how I use stencils. Now I use them in my art journal. So if you're painting your walls or something like that, that's a whole different monster that you're working with at that point. Um, I think the principles are probably the same in some of what I'm going to show you, but it's much bigger scale to do your wall or something more involved like that. What I'm working with is in my art journal. So you know what? I'm not going to say anymore. Let's flip over to my journal and we will go ahead. Let's see here. There we go. There we go. There we go. Can you see everything okay? Let me know. I would love to hear in the comments. Share with me where you are viewing from. If you're on replay, just hit that replay, hashtag replay. Don't hit it, I guess you type it, hashtag replay. I've got my coffee here. I've got my, it says crafter math on it. I don't know. I can't really show you. I'll show you later. If I remember, I'll probably forget, but it says crafter math. I love it. It's the clutter left behind after you made that thing that you found. So it just cracks me up. So the thing with stenciling is you want to have a really dry brush. You also want one that's here we go, that the bristles are kind of flat on mainly, and they're very coarse bristles. This is going to work really well when you're doing your stenciling. This one, I'm just using a Royal Langnickel. You can buy high-end stencil brushes in that. Honestly, I just use the inexpensive ones from the craft store. For my purpose, they work out just fine. Now, with the stencil that we're going to be doing today, I just got this one. I absolutely love it. It is a buffalo plaid. I actually bought this on Amazon, and it came with 8 stencils. So I have 4 different sizes of the buffalo plaid, from small to really big. And then it also has checkerboard pattern, small to really big, which I absolutely love. They are so versatile. This time of year is perfect for the buffalo plaid. Listen, I don't know if it's still in style because I don't pay attention to that. I just know I love buffalo plaid. I think it's really cool looking. I think it's when you're decorating, it just makes such a cool statement. I love buffalo plaid. I really love it at the holidays where you have the red and the black. I think that's so gorgeous. But even any time of the year, it's really fun. So I'm going to show it to you today. You can see I was working earlier with a turquoisey color, and I'm going to do that again. So I'm going to go ahead. I've got my phthalo green, and my phthalo blue. And I'm going to take my brush and just mix those together. And it's going to give me this really nice turquoisey color. And then I'm going to add a little white to like half of it. To help get a lighter version of it. Because with the buffalo plaid, you're going to want 2 different colors. And you want to think about how you're layering them. Because like if I do a dark color background, like this darker turquoise blue, but then I layer yellow on top of it, well, the yellow is not strong enough. It's very transparent, so it's going to end up being a little murky with the turquoise blue underneath it. So in that case, I would want to do the yellow as the background and the turquoise blue layered on top, and that would work out great. So you really want to think about your layering process and how your colors work. Are they transparent? Are they more opaque? Because that will really determine how you layer your products, your colors, your products. Oh, looks like I got some green in there. That's all right. I just added a little green in there. I did not realize that was still wet. That is okay. All right, and then I'm going to take a little white in this half because I want this one fairly light. Let's pick that up. I even want it lighter than that. I want this one pretty light. Now I'm working in my art journal. It's an Arteza with watercolor paper. It is a 5.5 by 8.5 size, which I like for an art. Well, I have art journals of all sizes, but I like this for a daily art journal because it really allows me to play around, but without a big commitment. You know, I don't have the commitment of a huge page to fill for my daily work. Because often when I'm doing like my daily art journaling, I'm playing, I'm trying new things out. I might be trying a design out before I paint it on canvas, you know, a bigger canvas. I might first do a test run in my journal. So there's a lot of different ways that I might use my journal, my art journal. And I really like the versatility of having a smaller one. All right, let's get a little more white in here. So for my base coat, I just go ahead and put my color on. You can do it, like I said, you can do it any way you want. Add a little bit more white in there. I've got this fairly light compared to the other. So this is the base coat. Now with my watercolor paper, this is thicker. I do a lot of mixed media, so I'm often gluing and collaging, which is why I love the heavier watercolor paper in this one. But for straight up acrylic painting, it can be a little challenging because it does suck that color, that paint in so quickly. So it can make it hard to get an even coat. So I added water to it first and then put my paint on, and we will let that dry just a minute. So let me know in the comments if you have any questions so far. I would love to know, have you done stenciling before? Do you enjoy stenciling? Is this something that is a thing that you've done? And if you have, what are some of the things that you've stenciled? And if you have any tips or tricks, let us know. I'm going to go ahead and dry this. Let me mute myself a moment. It is fairly dry now, so that is awesome. Now let's go ahead and add this on. Now this is not going to cover the whole thing. I'm going to actually use my bigger one. Let me just give me a moment here. So you can see this is quite a bit bigger. I don't know if I like that. You know, we're going to use this. I like the smaller one. It is definitely connected with that one more. All right. So it's not going to fill the whole page. I could actually technically start it like this and then move it, but I I'm just not going to. I'm just not. That's what I said. All right, so I'm going to pick up, here's a tip for you. So the first tip was the layering of the colors and to be aware of how that's going to work with how opaque they are or transparent. Here's the next one. I'm going to take my darker color. I do not want a lot of paint on my brush. When you have a lot of paint or you have a wet brush, that is where you end up getting the bleeding underneath from. So we want it pretty dry, and I offload like most of it. And then I'm going to hold my stencil down. Now, some people tape them down. You could totally do that. But I hold it down, and I am making sure that my stencil is staying down. So I don't want it to be buckling up and stuff when I'm working on it. So I'm very aware of the placement of my hand, and is that allowing for the stencil to stay in place. Now, if I carefully pull that up, look at how gorgeous that is. So now we're going to do the same. I'm going to pick up some paint. Let me get this in the camera so you can see it. Being careful because I also don't want to move my stencil, but I want you to see I'm going to pick up some paint. Not a lot. I'm going to offload it over here. So remember, we don't want much on our brush at all. And then I'm going to come here and start going back and forth. Sometimes I go in a circular motion. Sometimes I go back and forth. That's a preference. It can be, you know, how your design is. Like the back and forth here makes a lot of sense for getting in those grooves, but so does coming in a circle, because sometimes that helps to get in there a little bit more. So I do a little bit of both motions. Now, the more cutout you have, the more intricate. It does get a little trickier. You have, like if you have a lot of intricate cutouts, you do have to be a little more careful with how you're moving your brush. You might have to go slower. You might have to adjust your movements a little bit. You see how I moved my finger just now to hold it down in this area? Really important. Because I don't want my stencil to start riding up and buckling. One, that can ruin the stencil. And two, it can mess up the look you're going for. Look at how nice that's looking. Isn't that gorgeous? All right, so we're going to just finish this up here. This buffalo plaid is so versatile too. I absolutely love this. It makes such a great background. You can use it as the main part of your painting. Stencils in general are a lot of fun to use. Now I'm using like this whole thing. You wouldn't even have to do that. You could just use part of it. You could just use, like maybe you just need a square, or maybe you just want this part of it. You can totally play around with the stencil. All right, we are cruising right along here. And don't be afraid to use stencils. Again, I know a lot of times I'll hear people are like, oh, I tried stencils. They don't work for me. They just make a mess. I can't use them. You can. This is why we work in an art journal, so that we can experiment. We can try, we can practice things. It doesn't have to be perfect in our art journal. It really gives us a chance to explore our art and our supplies, and gives us a chance to make some art we can be proud of. You know, I mean, even if it's not perfect, we can be proud of what we made. But it also gives us a chance to perfect our techniques. All right, and then I said I wasn't going to, but I am going to move that. So I'm just lining this up the best I can so that I can finish off this page. We are almost done here. And then once you have this done, you can leave it as is. You can put a word on top of it. You could paint an image over it. So many different things that you can do once you have this on your background. All right, and just like that, we have a buffalo plaid background. How pretty is that? And it didn't take much to do at all. Got a little bit of a hair in there. Let's get that bugger out. All right. So this is a great way to practice your stenciling, to do it in your art journal, to play around with color. This is a great way to play around with color. If you're not sure, when I talk about some colors being more transparent than others, if you're not even really sure what that's all about, play around with a stencil like this where you're layering colors and see what happens. You don't even have to do a whole page. You could just do like part of a page with a color combo. Maybe do like half of it with yellow and blue, and then the other half do blue and yellow, you know, kind of start to play around and see what happens when you layer different mixtures. But it's a great way to just play. And then, you know, if you want, you can go a little further. You can see that buffalo plaid in the background there where we did it real soft, and create a really cool background for some of your art. All right, my friends, thank you so much for being here. I hope this was helpful for you. I hope it is. There were some tips and techniques. We talked about layering your color. We talked about how to offload the paint and using a dry brush so that you have minimal paint on your brush. And that way you don't get the bleed through in the stencil. And we talked about hand placement, to really hold it down and move your hand around depending on where you're brushing, so that your stencil always stays in place and looks good. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed this, please like it, comment, share with your friends. It is such a great way to show your love and appreciation if it's something that was helpful to you. All right, thank you. Bye-bye.